Welcome to the DJ Insider Podcast, sponsored by Amplified Events.
It's the only podcast where we break down insider information from our weddings, experience, and advice from over 15 years in the wedding industry.
We're your hosts. I'm Mike Kane, owner of Amplified Events.
And I'm Joe Albomonte, the general manager of Amplified Events.
Let's get into it.
Well, we're back on the podcast.
We're back.
Pod.
Today we got Amplified bestie, Mr. Jeff Webb.
Hello.
Amplified Michigan.
Welcome, Jeff.
So we had an interesting weekend. Back-to-back bridal shows. Wooded Knot and the Wings Event Center up in Kalamazoo.
I would not have missed it for the world.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
They both went, I think, pretty well. Bridal shows are always kind of like shot in the dark. You hope people will come. You'll hope you'll have meaningful, good conversations with couples. And, you know, that they'll book, right?
Yeah, good turnout. I mean, I've already seen a couple inquiries come through just that have had...
Yeah, that heard about us from bridal shows and stuff.
Sure,
so.
yeah. It's been nice to talk to them.
Yes, so we'll see. But I thought it'd be fun to talk about, like, because I liked for this podcast for people to get to know us, but also for it to be like advice. And I noticed like a recurring thing when couples walk up, they have no idea kind of what to ask. Mm-hmm. They have no idea kind of like the process of things. And I thought it'd be helpful to kind of like, if you're going to any bridal shows this year, here's some good ideas and things also some things to avoid if you're going to go approach vendors.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if I talked about it before, I just went through the process last year, and I feel like we didn't really go to any shows or expos or anything like that, and I think that's probably because we're in the industry and we already know, like, you get married, you already know exactly, especially if you got married in Northwest Indiana, you know exactly what vendors you would go to, I'd assume. And so, like, we kind of had the same thing, but, like, if we were to go to a fest or an expo at that point in time, I feel like my first thing would be to go for, they tell you to not judge a book by its cover, but I feel like when it comes to something like this, go with the one that speaks to you aesthetically and then go in for the talk. I feel like there's a large swath of people that do these things that just kind of go booth to booth to booth to booth, and they're talking to everybody. They're talking to the suit people. They're talking to the other suit people. They're talking to 6 DJs. They're talking to the dude that's there that's installing baths for some reason. So like, like they're getting all the pamphlets. They're getting all the information, and
There is always a business that's kind of...
It's like, what are you here? When you get married, get yourself a shower fitting. And that's like number 2. They tell you get married, and then you get a shower fitting. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
That's in my
Something
culture.
blue. That's
it. Absolutely.
Get your shower redone.
So, like, these things are obviously limited time. So I think that you should, kind of pick your, I like this. I'm going to talk to this. If I don't like this individual after I have an interaction with them, I'll move on to the next vendor that I assume or that I believe has some kind of aesthetic quality that speaks to me.
Yeah, and ideally,
especially for something that we do, where like we're visible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's some people who are just brand new to the process. They just got engaged. They're not getting married for another 2 years or something. They don't even have a date yet, and so they're just wanting to meet lots of vendors and see what's out there. Totally fine. We're talking. I want to talk more to people who are like, we need a DJ, or we need a florist, or we need a venue, or and you're just trying to get in front of some. The whole point of the bridal show is that you're face-to-face. You can literally have a sales conversation with these people, and I guarantee you all of them want to book you, and they would do it right that day if you would allow them to. Yeah. So if you're organized and ready to do that, be ready to do that, right? Be ready to pay a deposit. Be ready to have ask all of your questions. Yeah. If you're ready to have a serious conversation about booking somebody at a bridal show. I would also say, just a little insider advice, ask if I book with you today, could you give me any kind of a discount?
We had one of those in Michigan.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate ask, especially because a lot of vendors they paid to buy the booth for the show, and they want to make the return on their investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would also say, definitely if you have your date, have that ready. Honestly, make a plan. They usually advertise on who's going to be at the show, what vendors, what they're doing. Sure. Do some research. Know kind of what's important to you. I had several couples come up and be like, for ceremony, do you mic us? Do you, do you stream your music off a phone? Like, they had very specific questions, so it's very easy for me to just answer those questions. And
yeah.
That's all good things. Now, what are some things they should avoid doing?
I think that you should avoid sending a surrogate. And what I mean by that is, if you care about your wedding, maybe it's you that should go instead of just your parents or your aunt or something like that. Like frankly, they don't have the same aesthetic preferences that you do. They don't have the same sonic preferences that you do.
I'm here for my grandson.
Right. Yeah.
He
so
loves
like,
trip hop. So
yeah.
How do you feel about so on that note, how do you feel about them both being there, but then they just split up and conquer and divide?
I still, again, at the end of the day, I think that it's fine for you to have them with, and, it's cool because they probably have some kind of experience with events or this, that. You get to a certain age, we've all done a ton of planned events. So, that's nice, and it's an experience that you want to share with the people that you care about, and you want to share with, your parents and the people that you love.
True.
But they're going to influence you, man. They're going to influence you hardcore.
Well, at my wedding, at this wedding, at my friend's wedding,
or even so, they're gonna make a face at the price at something that you really like,
Also
or they're
true.
gonna make a face they don't like barbecue, but you're digging it, and you're just going to town on that barbecue mac and cheese, and she's like, well, I don't. What's the term that I love? What's not for me, but if you like it.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
No,
you don't need that.
No,
pick your date
especially
first
if
and
it's
foremost.
your wedding.
Exactly.
Pick the food you like. Pick the things you like. Pick your aesthetic. Especially with something we do. To your first point, it's if there are 10 DJs there, every single setup looks drastically different.
Oh my
From the
gosh.
lighting to the booth to the facade to every last bit of equipment is most of the time different. So seriously, just go with what you think looks best, then go talk to them. And if you don't get a good vibe, move on to the next one you like.
Yeah.
And I think ours looks really good. Just on a side note, I think ours
Clean.
looks really sleek, clean, just square cut, clean.
It provides us
you
the
know.
ability to push it back in the space and stand in front to be able to actually interact with people. As
We
opposed
want to
That
actually
was
have
nice.
meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
We want to stand behind the booth. We
I do want to.
We
but
all want to be behind the booth, which is why we have to push it back so that we actually are forced to stand in front of it.
Yeah, but if you go to the show and you're wanting to book vendors, have a list of the vendors, make sure you stop and do a quick round, see who looks good, go up to them, have a meaningful conversation, have 3 or 4 questions ready to go, things that are important to you, control of the music or timeline adjustments, or talk about your priorities. It's just weird when you're, hi, I'm so and so, and you guys DJ. And we're like,
Yeah.
yes, we do actually. So I have some advice for other vendors too.
That was my next question. I was like, well, what's the advice for vendors?
DJs,
I got some.
don't bring your speakers.
Don't
And
bring your
If you do have to
Please
bring,
don't.
people know what speakers look like, and trust me, we've got cool looking speakers. We don't bring our speakers because we don't sell couples because of our equipment. We sell them because of our performance. We have nice equipment. It looks nice. That's part of our brand. But we are not selling them the equipment. We're selling them our DJ performance. So DJs, you don't need all of your lights. You don't need all of your sound. You don't need 4 speakers. And definitely, please don't play music.
Oh my gosh, please don't play music. I hate you if you play music at an expo. And especially if there's multiple people playing music at an expo.
Because then they're battling. We heard I Want to Dance with Somebody 3 times.
3 times.
Back to back to back.
Dude.
That was insane.
They did Love on Top. One DJ did one on Love on
Yes,
Top. And then
yes,
another
yes,
DJ did Love on Top
that's
right
what it was.
after.
Sorry, yeah.
It was a lot.
Oh my gosh.
I love that song.
I get that DJs that you want to showcase what you can do, but that's not the time or the place.
No, and especially when, frankly, you're just playing a playlist in the background
That's it.
while
You're not even
talking.
mixing.
You're not
Well,
mixing.
you're playing a playlist while you are screaming at people in
Yes.
front of your speakers as you talk to them.
Trying to have a sales conversation at a noisy party.
Yes.
Like if it was loud for us, imagine how loud it was in front of the booth talking to them. I
Hey,
didn't
how you
even go over
doing?
there.
Like
Yeah.
their ears were ringing for the entirety of that day.
Especially with it being behind them too. Like they're getting blasted. They're not next to it. They're not behind the booth at this point.
No.
They're getting screamed at too.
Yeah.
It's excessive.
I think it's good to have examples of your work, and that could be a video or photos. You could have your equipment, fine. If that's what it's really important to you to show off your fancy lights or your fancy speakers or whatever, do it, but just don't have it playing.
Don't have it playing, but also save yourself the stress. People don't care that much, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with if there's a smaller boutique show and literally the venue's like, this DJ is going to be the only one allowed to play
Period.
music.
Yeah. Full
And then
stop.
that DJ makes sure it's not too loud for the other vendors. And then they're willing to adjust the volume on each song or whatever to make sure that people can actually have meaningful sales conversation with a little light background music.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially as guests are first arriving and it's just quiet. That's fine. But again, that's one coordinated place where the DJ is assigned to do that, and only one DJ is playing music.
Literally.
It's the worst thing ever when you have, because at cacophony, it's just this garbage sound coming from all over the place.
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard to have a meaningful sales conversation and to get to know people, because you're just at the worst party ever, because it's like there's just blaring music from every direction that doesn't match.
6 dudes, 6 different guitars, all
Battling
the same
pianos,
song.
but terrible.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
just
sorry,
battling
But they
DJs.
haven't coordinated. Yeah.
And if you are going to showcase, like, to me, pick songs like, I get the logic, but there's literally brides walking in and the guy's playing Sexy Back.
I remember that.
And I was like, this is just so inappropriate for
Yeah.
this specific time. It is noon on a Saturday.
That's
It's
when
just-
I play JT.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit the vibe, the energy of what was in the air at the time. And it just made it kind of, hi, I'm getting sexy,
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
The mother. Yeah, no, exactly. It was a little wild. And also, like you said, I mean, there's also 70 different conversations happening in that room, so you have to compete
Yeah.
with that as well. It's just a bit much. It's very overwhelming. I spoke to a couple people, especially on Sunday in Kalamazoo, and a couple of them were just like, you could tell they just looked
Deer in headlights.
shell shocked, right?
There's
I'm like,
so much
I'm like, how you doing? You doing all right? Like, this is crazy, right? And she's just like, I'm just very overwhelmed. Sound just kind of gets to me, and this is a lot. I'm like, yeah. It's a hockey arena filled with thousands of people that are screaming at each other. So I get it, man. It's very overwhelming.
Especially like we walked into the hallway like right when it started, and only a couple people had trickled in. We were like, okay, it's not gonna be like too bad. And then we went in the hallway, and there were like 200 people just like lined
Couldn't even
up.
get through.
Couldn't even. And then they just blasted through the floodgates at some point, and the room was full of hundreds of people.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
But yeah, no, we walked into the hallway and saw the precursor to what was to come.
28 days later.
Exactly.
crazy, yeah.
And then all the zombies showed up.
Yeah, it was wild. Not the place you want to be when that happens.
Not the place you
Trackstar zombies.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That's a nightmare.
Other advice for vendors at bridal shows?
I think that more than anything, less is more. Man, less is more when it comes to your displays. I saw people with, there was one booth I saw with 7 different signs, like the similar just stand-up signs like we use. There were 7 of them displaying 7 different things, and it was like, I don't know. Our setup is pretty. It's pretty streamlined, right? We bring our booth to use as a table, but also as an example to show you, like, hey, this is the booth that we use. It's one of the things that I like about it is that we are able to fit in most areas, like without a giant facade, a table, this, that, and the other thing. And so we're able to utilize that. We're able to show that. And like you said, the video did a lot of nonverbal communication for us. Yeah. But we also I don't think that you need a ton of signage, so long as you have something that will enable someone to have the desire to come up to your booth and have a conversation with you. That's all information that you can share with them. Yeah. Like if you can use a conversation to share that information with a potential couple, do that as opposed to just, hey, come look at my giant billboard. It's far less personal.
Yeah.
And there's another thing, but it'll come to me eventually.
I know it's comfortable to sit behind your table, but I recommend you don't do that.
Stand in front of
that's
it.
A good call.
I know it's a long day, trust me, and you're on your feet, but it to me, it's not the way to go if you want to have a meaningful conversation with people that you want to book your service. You shouldn't make them feel like they need to step in line.
Yeah.
That's more of a service thing rather than a sales conversation.
It's like an autograph line, like you're coming up to get an autograph from us.
Yeah.
Also, side note, as advice, if you see going to any of these expos or any of these bridal shows, if you see Bake My Day, eat the cinnamon roll cupcake.
So good.
Okay?
So good.
The cinnamon roll cupcake.
It was very good.
That's my other thing. Don't be afraid to network. Go around,
man.
introduce yourself, talk to people, get to know them, share cards, like and follow their stuff. It doesn't cost anything to do that.
No, man.
To follow other vendors on social media that you connect with.
That's the best part.
It really is. These can be a great networking thing, too. It doesn't have to always be about money or sales. You can get to know and make some new friends. But don't, just be cool. Like, just be nice.
Just be cool, man.
Yeah. And if they're having a sales conversation, like maybe don't interrupt that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Read the room.
Read the room.
Read the room.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have 3 of us there, so if people would come up and
Yeah.
there wasn't ever a line. We could always cover multiple people, and I would recommend that. If you don't have to go by yourself, bring someone else too. Bring a second person. Having another person there was really good.
I agree. It's great, especially like we were talking about. You could kill 2 birds with one stone. Like we were able to walk around and talk to some of the vendors while you or Mike or I were back at the booth, and that was nice. That was really fun. I was not as tired, I think, at the end of both days that I think Mike was for sure, and I find that fascinating to me because and maybe it's just because I've only done maybe a dozen at this point or half dozen somewhere in there, but I'm I'll get out there, I'll talk to him, I'll mingle, I'll rizz him up, just do it. It's fun for me, and it's not that tiring, but it's but the event, whereas the event I'll get done with a wedding, get done, pile all the equipment, be done at midnight, crack myself open a beer at 12:01 a.m. and I could fall asleep with the beer in my hand, just covered in sweat and exhaustion from head to toe. Yeah. But you're like the exact opposite. It's the end of an event. I feel like you're just raring and ready to go. You're just hyped and granted, the hype is there, but after the show, it's Mike was tanked.
Yeah,
Mike was tanked.
Yeah, I think that most of that I looked it up actually had to do with that I'm doing dry January, they call it sober fatigue.
Oh man,
your body's oh, there's not alcohol. Let me heal it. Let me heal myself, and you're just gonna be really tired.
I feel that.
Go to sleep.
Go to sleep.
Heal in sleep.
So, but yeah, it was just a long day. I just on my feet. And I get peopled out, where I'm just, and that's why I think it's good advice. I think other people get peopled out too.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot of emotional energy to try to present your best self. If you're tired or sick or not feeling well, that
Gotta
kind
be
of thing.
on.
Yeah, and I imagine it's the same for couples. And so if you only have limited energy, make sure you go to have a few conversations instead of don't go to every booth. Mm-hmm. Go to ones that seem important to you and have a real conversation. Ask the questions that you need answered in order to book with them. If they answer it the way you want and you like what you're hearing, you like the price, or book them. But it just feels very kind of well, I don't know. And it's you go into a flower store. Do you guys sell flowers here?
That is wild, isn't it? And that's the majority of the mentalities.
I don't know what to ask, and that's okay. It's okay to not know what to ask, but that's why you should listen to this podcast, and that's why you should. That's why you should do some research. Do a little bit of research.
That's my thing. It's just what I know that it's hard, and this is one of those things where hopefully you're only doing this once in your lifetime, so it's a little confusing. But it's I don't know if I could just go to a giant expo like that or any type of show, and just kind of wing it. You know what I mean?
I don't either, and I feel at that point I would almost be sticking to the negative things I've seen at weddings, and that's what I would kind of guide my question towards. It's well, I saw this at a wedding. I really didn't like this. What do you guys do otherwise? That do you guys do something different? Yada yada. But I also think that leaves the company open to a big conversation of oh, well, this is how we handle that.
Yeah.
We do it. No. That's a terrible way that they did that. I'm so sorry. This is how we do it. And it kind of opens that conversation. And I would only say if you don't know what to ask, lead with things you didn't like, things that you've seen recently in the past couple of years that you don't want at your wedding. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Here's the things I'd like to avoid at my wedding.
Yeah.
Have you guys experienced those? How do you handle those kind of things? What's your process?
That's planning. That's what I've noticed a lot too, is people really wanted to talk about the planning, and things felt really rushed at this wedding we went to, or just there was no coordination, or you couldn't really hear that nobody was listening to the DJ, things like that. And just reassuring them that we can handle that. That's something we've done quite a bit. Those conversations were fun, and they're different. Not conversations you get to have all the time on a typical sales call. If
you are planning a bridal show and organizing it, I recommend that you don't have multiple announcements over the loudspeaker.
Oh man,
it was 45 minutes of drawing, and it was poorly organized because it was Victoria Smith, Victoria Smith going once, going twice. You know,
Is she still here?
it's like
Anybody?
3,000, 4,000 people. Like we're all just waiting around for Victoria
Yeah,
Smith
that's
to come get her.
going 100.
It's-
Going 200.
There should be.
If
a
you're trying to
text,
have a
there
meaningful, it basically shut down the last hour of the show because people they just want to sit and wait for their name to be called. They didn't want to actually, because they didn't want to miss it.
The seats in the arena were filling up with tired people waiting.
They didn't want to miss their
should be.
name
But they were
being
offering
called.
like free wedding cakes,
Yeah.
and like, of course, I'm going to listen for that too. Like, if I'm here to
Prizes
budget.
were neat.
But if you're having a
Like-
sales conversation, you might miss your prize, or, you know, that kind of.
Exactly.
So I don't know. There's a better ways to do it that I think don't involve just an hour of announcements and drawings. You know.
I also
bring the thing, but just like send a text.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have all their information. You have this bride's information. They even sent it like as a follow up, like to send whatever. But also, just text them to come pick up your gift at the booth.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Respond to this text and meet here. Yeah. That's it. It's a quick thing. It just, you know, we're just standing around doing nothing for an hour waiting for people to collect their prizes. It's like, and a lot of them, they'll penalize you if you tear down early.
They made that announcement too. Make sure you guys leave at the end. 30, whatever it was. But.
I had a lot of fun giving out advice to people that even if they weren't going to book, like it was just like one of the things that I was harking on people like the whole time, Saturday and Sunday. It was just like, yeah, dude, DJs are awesome. You're going to have a great party. There's going to be a lot of loud music and flashy lights. Focus on the audio for your ceremony. Like not entirely focus on it.
It's all important, but
like, you know, there's going to be an aunt or a grandpa or a mother that's hard of hearing, and they are going to want to hear every single syllable that is happening in that ceremony. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there are probably 15 DJs at that expo, and there were probably 4 other DJs at the show Saturday that are going to do a serviceable to great job DJing your wedding. Did your aunt hear your vows during the ceremony? Did everyone hear the vows? Yeah.
It is very important, and it's something that a lot of people look over. It's like, oh well, we don't need ceremony audio. We have a
tell the
live
officiant
band
to
or
speak
something.
loud.
Yeah, and it's like that's fine, but like I don't really think you're gonna wish you had it when like your aunt comes up and is like, oh, I really wish I could have heard your vows. Or the people in the back row are like looking back at the DJ like,
yeah,
you're like, I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry. Like, but I get ceremony audio. Even if you have live music, mic up your officiant and groom.
Even if you're indoors.
Even if you're indoors, mic them up. Even if you need a hand, if there's readings, get a mic. Like
spend the money.
That's something we do. Spend the money.
Get
very important.
Music and microphones.
Just a little extra thing, but it really does change.
That's
a lot.
That's
It's a
definitely
lot
not
of
something you should
experiences.
DIY.
No, definitely not.
And
Somebody's
not
just playing on a Bluetooth speaker, just playing off their phone.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. You know, I've definitely seen that before with couples. Like, you know, they're like, oh, I'm not doing the ceremony for this, but we are gonna, you know, we'll have you do this, and like just standing off and watching it, with the Bluetooth speaker and telling the officiant to scream.
It's like I could have just
screaming right now. I could have easily take clip speaker. Sounds beautiful. Give you the opportunity to wire in if you're getting videography services.
That's the other thing too. It's like if you're getting videography, you should always have audio. Like
Absolutely.
It doesn't make sense to have one and not the other.
That was, but it was fun for me to like have all those, and I probably said that maybe 24 times at least. And like, it was fun to see people's gears turns and just be like, oh man, you know, we hadn't even considered that. That's definitely something that we're gonna lean towards. Like, good. Thank God.
And then now too, you have like video of your guys' vows.
Yeah.
And audio, you can hear them again. You know, 50 years from now, you can go back and watch your wedding. Yeah. And relive, and you know, but you can't do that if it wasn't being recorded. You can't do that if the audio wasn't being recorded.
Absolutely.
You don't realize what you missed out on. And to me, it's a crucial thing. It's kind of the whole point of the day is you're uniting at that ceremony, and it's like we're gonna really not put any production into this at all.
Yeah.
We're going to wing it. If you're there with 5 friends, fine.
Sure.
But usually it's 50 or more. And, you know, if you're over 20 people, you're going to need a microphone. Mm-hmm. They're just going to suck up that sound. They're like, oh, be loud enough. I don't think you will. No. Everybody wings it. And not everybody, but
and
a lot
I
of
appreciate the quick ceremony too nowadays. However, like I do think people skip past it a lot because like they want to get to reception and get to dinner and get everything going. like, let's not forget, like, ceremony is the whole point.
Why we're
Everybody's
here.
gathering today. Like, let's really celebrate this, and then the party's gonna be great, yada yada. But to your point, like, do ceremony right. Spend the money. Get some audio.
It can be what people want it to be. If you want a short, sweet thing, totally fine. But still, for your guests to like actually enjoy and hear what's being said, just mic it.
Yep.
You know.
Agreed. Any shows coming up? What's on the docket?
We got a couple things coming up. I know that you and I are doing something at Belmare next month.
Nice.
I have a tasting coming up at Allure
Yeah.
on Sunday, and then we have a couple of the Journeyman Bridal shows coming up.
Both Valpo and Three Oaks.
Should be good.
Off season, baby.
Hey, we have a wedding also late January.
Yeah.
Or early February. Either way.
I have a wedding on the 8th. I guess this weekend. Yeah, the 18th.
Wow.
That's crazy, isn't it?
No off season. What off season?
What off season? It's slow season.
It's
No sleep till Brooklyn.
No sleep till Brooklyn. That's also, that's part of the advice is right there. That's it.
Well, yeah, I don't have too much else. We can wrap.
Cool.
Cool, man.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'll see you.